أول فاتحة سورة الخميس سورة الطه أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. طه ما أنزلنا عليك القرآن لتشقى إلا تذكرة لمن يخشى تنزيلا ممن خلق الأرض والسماوات العلى الرحمن على العرش استوى له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وما بينهما وما تحت الثرى وإن تجهر بالقول فإنه يعلم السر وأخفى الله لا إله إلا هو له الأسماء الحسنى. وهل أتاك حديث موسى إذ رأى نارا فقال لأهلهم كثوا إني آنست نارا لعلي آتيكم منها بقبس أو أجد على النار هدى. فلما أتاها نودي يا موسى إني أنا ربك فاخلع نعليك إنك بالوادي المقدس طوى وأنا اخترتك فاستمع لما يوحى إنني أنا الله لا إله إلا أنا فاعبدني وأقم الصلاة لذكري. إن الساعة آتية أكاد أخفيها لتجزى كل نفس بما تسعى فلا يصدنك عنها من لا يؤمن بها واتبع هواه فتردى. وما تلك بيمينك يا موسى قال هي عصاي أتوكأ عليها وأهش بها على غنمي ولي فيها مآرب أخرى. قال ألقها يا موسى فألقاها فإذا هي حية تسعى. قال خذها ولا تخف سنعيدها سيرتها الأولى واضم يدك إلى جناحك تخرج بيضاء من غير سوء آية أخرى لنريك من آياتنا الكبرى. اذهب إلى فرعون إنه طغى قال رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي واجعل لي وزيرا من أهلي هارون أخي اشدد به أزري وأشركه في أمري كي نسبحك كثيرا ونذكرك كثيرا إنك كنت بنا بصيرا. قال قد أوتيت سؤلك يا موسى ولقد مننا عليك مرة أخرى أوحينا إلى أمك ما يوحى أن اقذفيه في التابوت فاقذفيه في اليم فليلقه اليم بالساحل يأخذه عدو لي وعدو له وألقيت عليك محبة مني ولتصنع على عيني. صدق الله العظيم. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. إنه من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. فأما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله تعالى وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. يقول الله تبارك وتعالى: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. ويقول سبحانه وتعالى: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. ثم أما بعد. Indeed, all praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah, a name that comes from Al-Ilah, mushtaqqa min Al-Ilah, as Ibn al-Qayyim mentions. The one God alone, the God, Al-Ilah. And I bear witness that Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam is the final prophet and messenger of Allah. Indeed, the best of speech is the Quran, the words of Allah, and the best of guidance is that of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. And the worst of matters are those that are newly introduced in Islam. For every newly introduced spiritual matter is an innovation, and every innovation is a misguidance, and every misguidance eventually leads to the hellfire. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect you and I from the punishments of this world and the hereafter. Allahumma ameen. Allah says in the Quran, and we hear this almost every Friday: O you who believe, have taqwa of Allah. As you live your life, as you go about your day, day in and day out, be conscious of Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. Be aware of Allah. The awareness, the mindfulness that He most deserves. وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ, and do not die except while being in the state of submission to Allah and Allah alone, except while being Muslims. And that's what follows. There are certain things that the Prophet ﷺ went through that caused him much distress. And many times we have this notion that if you are a practicing Muslim, if you pray, if you attend the masjid, if you recite the Quran, then you should not feel stressed out. You should not feel sad. You should not feel down. And the best of people to ever grace this earth, the most blessed of individuals, alayhi salatu wasalam, he felt overwhelmed at times. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He describes an incident where he would walk and he would hear people say things about him. And Allah says, وَلَقَدْ لَا مِنَ الْقَسَمِ, taking an oath. وَلَقَدْ, for sure we know, O Muhammad alayhi salatu وَلَقَدْ نَعْلَمُ أَنَّكَ يَضِيقُ صَدْرُكَ بِمَا يَقُولُونَ. We know for sure that when you hear them say certain things about you, when they permeate these falsehoods and lies, when you hear that, or word comes to you about these things, then you begin to feel overwhelmed, constricted inside. يَضِيقُ صَدْرُكَ. And that's to show us that, yes, he was the best of people. He prayed the most. He fasted the most. No one will reach a nearness to Allah like him, alayhi salatu wasalam. But despite that, he was a human being. So if you lost a loved one, if you face financial difficulty, if you're going through strife with your family, it's okay to feel overwhelmed. Give yourself that permission. Feeling down, feeling sad is not reflective of how close you are to Allah or how distant you are from Allah. It's basically an existential human feature that we all experience as part of being a human being. Moreover, not only did the Prophet ﷺ feel that way, but the best of people after him. Like the Sahaba, and like those who came after the Sahaba. And one of these individuals was the scholar of scholars, Imam al-Bukhari, who every masjid, every MSA, every household has his book, Sahih al-Bukhari, Sahih al-Jami', that he put together. Asahh al-Kutub ba'd al-Quran, the most authentic book after the Quran. Allah used him as a vessel to preserve the Sunnah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. At the end of this man's life, at the end of Imam Bukhari's life, and this is a person who spent his entire life and gave it for the science of hadith. People would come attend his gatherings, countless numbers of people, and amongst them are scholars. Certain people spread lies about him at the end of his life, and because of that, people would abandon him. No one would attend his gatherings anymore. At the end of his life, where your legacy should be solidified, where you exhausted your years, you compromised family time and social time to serve the science, and to have all of that be unrecognized and underappreciated at the end of your life is difficult. And so it was so hard on him, and he was the scholar of scholars, that he made dua in his seerah and his biography. He made dua saying, Allahumma inni qad ضاقت علي الأرض بما رحبت فاقبضني إليك. That, Ya Allah, the earth and how wasi' it is, how wide and vast and such an expanse it is. It's become constricted upon me. So take me back to you. And I say this because these were people who were unlike you and I. They were very special individuals that their names are etched indelibly in history. Yet they felt overwhelmed to that extent. They were the closest to Allah, but they felt sad too. So give yourself the permission to be a human being. Secondly, what Islam comes to do when we feel certain negative emotions or we think certain negative thoughts, Islam comes and it uplifts us. It gives us hope. There was certain superstitions during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, like a or a tatayyur, where they would, in certain months, they wouldn't travel. So they would take a bird and they would throw it in the air, and if it goes left, then in this month you shouldn't travel, or you shouldn't get married, or what have you. So they had these superstitions. Now the Prophet ﷺ, he came and he completely negated that. And he would pass by a group of people and he would see birds flying left and right, and he would not pay any attention to that. But he would see people, he would hear people speaking, and one would say to the other, Ya Najih, oh successful person. And as a result, he would say to himself, the conversation wasn't even directed at him, but he would say to himself, today is a day of najah. That he would find things around him not to scare himself, but to positively uplift him. Al-Fatih. So he would do that, alayhi salatu, completely injecting hope in that type of society, that negative society. Another incident where he would do that, alayhi salatu, was at the Battle of Al-Khandaq. And this was, if you look at the history, this was something that, wallahi, till this day, I'm a graduate of the Islamic University of Medina, until this day, it's mind-boggling how you're able to have courage in that type of situation. The opposition came forth from Mecca, and they had also the Jewish tribes in Medina with them, and the Muslims were digging a hole in the ground, the trench, al-Khandaq. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He describes the situation of the Muslims when they see the opposition come forth. And he says subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَزَاغَتِ الْأَبْصَارِ, that when you saw yourselves outnumbered in the darkness of the night, when it was very cold, when you had very little to eat, you tied rocks to your stomachs. And when you saw the opposition came forth, and you are who you are the Sahaba, people who had hand-selected to be around Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When you saw that, your eyes began to dart left and right, not knowing what to expect. It's life and death. وَبَلَغَتِ الْقُلُوبُ الْحَنَاجِرِ. It wasn't financial difficulty, it wasn't loss of a loved one, it wasn't family strife, it was life or death. And he says, your hearts reached your throats. And these were people who, again, are the absolute best of people, the most patient. They had the best faith, the most belief. And they felt scared to this extent. And the Prophet saw them. And this is a fact, historical fact. He saw that. At that very defining, critical moment, and the well-being of the entire community rested on his shoulders, alayhi salatu wasalam. And he took an axe, and he struck a rock, and when he saw the spark light up, he said, Allahu Akbar, futihat al-Sham. And a second time, and he said, Allahu Akbar, futihat al-Yaman. And a third time, he said, Allahu Akbar, futihat al-Furs. He said, Allahu Akbar, the area of Damascus will be liberated, free. And the area of Yemen will be free, and the area of the Persian Empire, present-day Iran, will be free. And so when you're reading this, you say to yourself, Ya Rasulullah, you have not yet secured Medina. You haven't protected your people in Medina, your community in Medina, from the opposition. How is your mind going to such distant lands, to Yemen and Damascus and the Persian Empire, areas that right now are unattainable for sure? But what he wanted to do, alayhi salatu wasalam, was he wanted to tell them that when the world is bleak and dark, when there is very little hope, when things are becoming despairing, we are a community of abiding resilience. We inject hope. We become the change that we want to see. And right now, within yourself, within your own mind, within your family, within your community, the challenges that you're going through, although right now you cannot see yourself overcome, you will not only overcome, but you will reach such well-being and be in such a place that right now you cannot fathom. That was the type of hope he had, alayhi salatu wasalam. He was a man who at the end of his life, at the end of his life, he would say, لا يموتن أحدكم إلا وهو يحسن الظن بالله. Hadith Sahih. He says, whatever, regardless of what you may have failed to do or what you may have committed, don't you dare die, except that you think the absolute best thoughts of Allah and of meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are people who carry this type of hope and this type of sentiment. This is what our deen brings to us. Lastly, in closing the first khutbah, we have to understand that although Islam brings hope and it brings positivity into our lives, we have to refine ourselves, especially our thoughts and emotions, our psychological state. We have to understand that the mind is a place where we harbor innocent beliefs, where we problem solve, where we bring light to darkness. That was the purpose of the mind. And Umar ibn Khattab, he would go, when he would be confounded by a situation, when he would find something very difficult, you know what he would do? He would go to the youth of the community, the high school students, the college students, the young adults. He would go to the youth, and he would seek answers in the sharpness of their minds. That's our legacy, that we have to have kids, young people, who are sharp in their intellects, who choose good thoughts over bad thoughts. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us understanding. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Please move forward. جزاكم الله. الحمد لله رب العالمين وأصلي وأسلم على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Please move forward to make room for people in the back. جزاكم الله خيرا. A lot of times what bogs people down is certain experiences that they cannot make peace with. Experiences that they've grown up to live through, things that happened to them recently that has caused trauma, and they can't make peace with that situation. And because of that experience, it gives rise to stress, it gives rise to anxiety, and so on. There's one case, and I often mention the story of a young individual who, I'm from Michigan, so I was a youth director there. So she gave me a call, and this was a person who attended our halaqah. And she called me one day, she was practicing, mashallah, outwardly practicing, she wore the hijab. And she called me one day and she said, please help me, I think I'm gonna hurt myself. And I said, and I was completely taken aback by that, and I told her, I said, well, you know, this is what Islam does. Go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's your safety net. Ultimately, He's the one who protects even if you fail yourself. And she said to me, what if I told you that I just tried to end my life and I slit my wrists? Where was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? This is a question, this is an existential crisis. For you to believe throughout your life that Allah will protect you. And to do something like this to yourself, and then to question Allah. Where were you when I needed you? When I gave up on myself, where were you? If you're the one who protects, if you were Ar-Rahman, where was your mercy and protection? And so I told her, I said, when you took the means to ending your life, and you let go, and you expected to die, He was there to catch your fall. The fact that you're calling me right now is a manifestation of His protection and mercy. The fact that 19 out of 20 suicide attempts fail, factually speaking, 19 out of 20 fail, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's ability to protect human life. Reframing their experiences. Take people's negative experiences and place their minds somewhere else where they see the good, they see the protection, they see the lessons, they see the wisdom. The Prophet ﷺ, Sahaba came to him and they said, Ya Rasulullah, we complain of thoughts that we think about Allah we cannot say. And he said, alayhi salatu wasalam, what that tells me is one thing. You have the purest form of iman in your heart. He didn't say, Ya Allah, like, this is a problem. He didn't say, now you have to freak out. He positively reframed their experiences. And that's what we have to do. Carry that type of mindset. We understand situations differently. There was one more incident, and I close with this, where certain people, they were traumatized by sins they committed. And they committed 3 really, really bad sins that across all faiths, all Abrahamic faiths, these are the worst. Shirk, wa qatl, wa zina. They committed shirk, which is putting someone or something at the level only Allah deserves to be at. Qatl, which is murder, and zina, which is fornication or adultery. The first one is spiritual death. The second one, qatl, is physical, literal death. And the third one, zina, is the death of the family. And they came together and they said, after some time, they said, we're gonna, is there any hope for us? This is really weighing down. And we cannot live because of these sins. So let's send someone to ask the Prophet ﷺ if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can forgive us. And they sent a messenger to the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And before, and this is mentioned in Aysal al-Tafasir, Shaykh al-Jazairi's book, in Tafsir, he mentions this as Sabab al-Nuzul. When they sent someone to ask the Prophet ﷺ, before the person they sent reached the Prophet ﷺ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals the ayah of which is considered an ayah of hope. And Allah says, قُلْ يَا عِبَادِيَ الَّذِينَ أَسْرَفُوا عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ لا تقنطوا من رحمة الله إن الله يغفر الذنوب جميعا إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. He says, say, O Muhammad, regarding my servants who their news has not reached you yet, but say regarding them, to them, do not ever, for a fraction of a moment, despair or doubt from the mercy of Allah, from the protection of Allah, from the mercy of Allah, from the love of Allah that He has for you, regardless of what you may have done. Allah forgives each and every type of sin. He is Al-Ghafur Rahim, subhanahu wa ta'ala. So for him to, this is the type of sentiment our deen brings to our lives. That Allah wants us to be uplifted, to be inspired, to be motivated, and to have hope, never-ending hope. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us understanding. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive our sins and shortcomings. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from ourselves, from all evils, inwardly and outwardly. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect our families, our sisters, our mothers, our daughters, our fathers, our siblings. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be with those who are suffering, to alleviate their distresses and burdens and sufferings. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our dua and to give us more than that which we ask. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be with those suffering all over the world, to protect them and to rid them of those who are oppressing them. Allahumma ameen. Lastly, before we stand for prayer, I work for an organization that helps the people of Yemen. And the situation right now is one where, according to UNICEF on their website, as of April 2017, every 10 minutes, according to UNICEF, every 10 minutes, a child in Yemen dies. And they say right now it's the worst humanitarian crisis in Yemen since World War II, anywhere in the world. That they die of cholera and diarrhea, azakumullah, curable diseases that are in water. And so what we provide is a simple package where we give food, basic medical supplies, and a truck full of water to one family for just $250 a month. So you can sustain a family for a whole month with clean water and food for just $250. That's $8 a day. And so if you are able to give, I'll have a table outside with a credit card machine and any cash donations you would like to give. donate on behalf of someone who's passed away, give on behalf of your family. One of the Salaf, Sa'id ibn Musayyib, he would do extra things like giving, and he was asked, why do you do that? And he said, I do this with the intention of Allah protecting my kids. So give with that intention, and give so basically Allah can give you and your family more. And for you to be a vessel of mercy for those people who need the help very direly. And it could have been the case where wallahi we would have been there and they would have been here. Where Allah, kept us there and brought those people to this country. And we need someone to help us. So open your hearts. I only visit once a year and give what you can. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد وأقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. وأيوب إذ نادى ربه أني مسني الضر وأنت أرحم الراحمين فاستجبنا له فكشفنا ما به من ضر وآتيناه أهله ومثلهم معهم رحمة من عندنا وذكرى للعابدين وإسماعيل وإدريس وذا الكفل كل من الصابرين وأدخلناهم في رحمتنا إنهم من الصالحين وذا النور إذ ذهب مغاضبا فظن أن لن نقدر عليه فنادى في الظلمات أن لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين فاستجبنا له ونجيناه من الغم وكذلك ننجي المؤمنين. الله لمن حمده. الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. وزكريا إذ نادى ربه رب لا تذرني فردا وأنت خير الوارثين فاستجبنا له ووهبنا له يحيى وأصلحنا له زوجه إنهم كانوا يسارعون في الخيرات ويدعوننا رغبا ورهبا وكانوا لنا خاشعين والتي أحصنت فرجها فنفخنا فيها من روحنا وجعلناها وابنها آية للعالمين إن هذه أمتكم أمة واحدة وأنا ربكم فاعبدون. اللهم الله لمن حمده. الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you to today's Khatib, Shaikh Ali Altamimy, mashallah, beautiful khutbah. Next week, inshallah, we have Dr. Jummah Khutba, inshallah. Tonight, there's family night with Muhammad Atiyah. We hope to see you there. There's a Yemen table outside. There's a table outside for the children of Yemen. Please stop by outside and check it out. Just like Brother Tamim said, it's the most country in need at this very moment. Tomorrow we have graduation for those who have graduated from high school and college. Please attend. We are encouraging our Muslim youth to go and achieve high education in the Muslim world and in the United States, and to achieve great scholarships and great awards. So please come and join us. For those who are willing to help us with this action, please donate with whatever you can, $100, $200, $300. We're planning to give out scholarships to the students. Please visit the welcome booth outside if you have any questions or want to participate or be a volunteer. There's a women group at ICSB every Friday from 11:30 to 1. Please don't forget to register for the Quran classes and donate to the general public, to the new building. And women, you can donate your jewelry. Please make dua for those who are sick and passed away. Inshallah, we're going to switch some dua for 2 people who passed away over us. Alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الاحياء منهم والاموات. اللهم انصر الاسلام واعز المسلمين واعز بفضلك رايه توحيدك. اللهم انصر نصر دينك واجعلنا منهم، وانصر من قتل دينك ولا تجعلنا منهم. اللهم انصر الاقصى وسوريا. اللهم انصر الاقصى. اللهم انصر
نحن الآن في فلسطين يا عظيم الشأن يا الله، اللهم يسر اللهم يرزق الصحبة وارزقهم وانصرهم على أعدائهم يا أكرم الأكرمين. اللهم يسر امرنا واغفر كفنا وارحم ضعفنا، اللهم اغفر لنا وارحمنا وعافنا واعف عنا وبفضلك اكرمنا ومن شر خلقك سلمنا وعلى ذلك لا تكلنا. اللهم يا ارحم الراحمين اشف مرضانا، اللهم اغفر الناس واسعنا واشف مرضى الشافع. لا شفاء الا شفاء لا يغادر سقما يا ارحم الراحمين. اللهم انا نسالك الرحمه لامام المسلمين، اللهم ارحمنا بين واحد ولا تعلمنا فانت عليهم قادر وتكفيهم يا رب بما جعلتنا قدير انك على كل شيء قدير. اللهم اشرهم في زمن الانبياء والصديقين والشهداء والصالحين وحسن اولئك رفيقا. ربنا عليك توكلنا واليك ردنا واليك المصير. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا ان نسينا واخطانا. ربنا ولا تحمل علينا اسرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا. ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقه لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا انت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. سبحان ربك رب العزه عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين الحمد لله رب العالمين. محمد وعلى اله وصحبه.
If you would like to donate to the graduation, please talk to Brother Mirza or Brother Anwar outside, inshallah. Lastly, keep Brother Shuhair and his wife in your dua. They were just blessed with a new baby girl. Please keep her in your dua, and inshallah Allah raise her on the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.